Many law firms, most law firms, have this generic problem. It's very common. And that is, most of you sound the same. When it comes to messaging, it's all basically the same. All PI law firms sound like other PI law firms. All estate planning law firms sound like other, etc., etc. On this episode, I got to sit down and speak to Stuart Foster, the former CMO for Hilton, turned fractional CMO for numerous law firms. We talk differentiation, we talk many other topics, but most importantly, we talk about differentiation and specific tactics that you can implement at your law firm to arrive to a wonderful, speaking to the audience, differentiation point or unique selling proposition, something that answers the famous question, why should I, your prospective client, choose you over all other available options in the marketplace? Tune into the episode, maybe jot down some ideas that Stuart shares. They're wonderful ideas, and should you implement them in your business, they are going to revolutionize the number of new cases that you're signing and drop the cost per new case. Enjoy the episode. Hi there. I have a small but really meaningful favor to ask you. I watch at the stats on our YouTube channel and Spotify channel, wherever most people listen and watch our podcast, and I see that over 80% of everybody who listens to it regularly is not a subscriber. I'm asking you to subscribe to this channel, and the reason for that is my mission and the mission of my team is to help as many small law firm owners to learn how to transform their law firms into better businesses, and so they in turn enjoy better lives. When you hit subscribe button, you tell these platforms that this is content worth listening, worth viewing, and they in turn will show it to many other small law firm owners and hopefully help me fulfill our mission of helping them create a better business and enjoy better lives. So would you please do me this favor? It would mean the world to me. And hit the subscribe button. And my promise to you is that I will continue to work hard at creating good content with practical ideas that help you and your teams grow better law firms. Thank you. Welcome to Grow Law Podcast. I have an awesome guest with me here today, Stuart Foster, Law Firm Fractional CMO. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Sasha. Great to be here.
I know you've had an illustrious career in marketing.
Oh, that's kind.
Well, so I know what you've done, the corporate journey. It's quite amazing, the things that you have accomplished, and now you've established this somewhat newer brand. I believe you've been around for a few years with Law Firm Fractional CMO, which I personally, as a marketer, believe that this is a sorely needed position for most law firms out there. They would all do substantially better, like financial performance-wise, if they had a fractional CMO. So I'm glad that there are a handful of individuals who have taken the leap of faith in this industry who are actually doing fractional CMO work. So I am definitely delighted to have you on this podcast.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
Wonderful. I've heard you speak on another podcast, and this is what caught my attention. You talked about every law firm out there. If you cover their logo, you will see that all types of marketing and advertising looks the same. No fee till we win. We're the biggest and the baddest. Etc., etc., etc.
We're compassionate. We'll take care of you. Our lawyers are terrific. Yeah, it's the same stuff. It's lack of differentiation.
In Seinfeld speak, it's yada, yada, yada. It's
exactly.
Absolutely the same. And I'm aging myself here a little bit, but yada, yada. It all looks absolutely the same, except for Morgan & Morgan, because his whole spiel is, number one, got it.
That's
You're
right.
big. You're big. I don't know how that speaks to prospects, but that's a differentiation point. I'm curious, and I know that so many law firm owners, because I've talked to them about them, they talk about how do we stand out? How do we answer the question that Dan S. Kennedy positioned decades ago? Why should I, your prospective client, choose you over all other available options in the marketplace? And I don't think almost anybody's got it. So if you and I were to partner up and buy a law firm in the state of Arizona, where ABSs have been prominent for a few years now, and now Utah, and very soon to be, we're recording this late March of 2026, very soon to be Washington State. It's already happening there. If you and I were to buy a law firm and they had this very generic messaging, how would we go about coming up with messaging that would actually speak and set us apart from the rest of the field?
Yeah. I think job number one is to turn around, is to literally 180 degree your orientation towards your clients. I think the biggest mistake law firms make is they talk about themselves. We do this. We're this. We went this. Here's where I went to school. Here's how much we've won. And it's all about me, 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 right? And I tell this to prospective clients. Nobody cares. Actually, the clients really don't care because they see all the lawyers as mostly capable, mostly successful. So how do I judge between 5 different firms who are all good and successful and have a track record? Turn your orientation around and talk to and about the client. What are they worried about? What are they concerned about? Talk about their needs. Are you going to make sure that they get paid even though they can't go to work? Are you going to make sure their medical bills get paid? Are you going to make sure their loved ones are taken care of? That kind of messaging, first of all, is in my opinion, is job number one. But when it comes to differentiation and coming up with that brand messaging, I think there's kind of 3 legs to the stool, if you will, to use an old-fashioned metaphor. Number one is look at your competition. Look at your competition and find out everything they're saying, right? And write it down and map it out. And if you want to say, okay, our competition number one is Morgan & Morgan, what do they stand for? Well, they say they're the biggest. They say they're the best. They say they've won the most, right? Okay, so, that's their positioning. Take competitor number 2 and competitor number 3 and try to find what their messaging is, if it's differentiated or what you can find. So understand your competitors, number 1. Number 2 is back to that flipping that around. Understand what your clients need, right? So if you're focused on MBAs, what are people looking for? If you're focused on dog bites, what are people looking for? If you're focused on med mal, whatever your practice area, what are the needs that you can solve for your clients? So that's number 2. And the third leg of the stool, sorry, I'm blanking here. You're gonna have to cut this out. The third leg of the stool is, what is your unique differentiation? What does your firm stand for? So sit around with your partners and talk through what is it you stand for that's different, and challenge each other. And until you can really find that competitive advantage, that you do something faster, you do something sooner, you do something more effectively, find that difference. But it's got to be kind of competitor proof. It can't be we take care of people. It can't be we treat our customers really nicely. It's just not strong enough. And so what we do with our clients is we actually hold a strategy session, and we have a process to go through these 3 things. And you just keep going around until you sharpen and sharpen and sharpen, and you distill it and you distill it again. But if you get that competitors, your clients, and then your own value, what is your value proposition that you offer, combine those 3 things, you'll find greater differentiation than if you just say the same thing that everybody else is saying.
Yeah, I think there would be, I put myself into shoes of a listener, and I think there will be 2 pushbacks. One is, I ain't got the time to do this. That's number 1. And number 2 is, even if I had the time, I don't think we're different from everybody else. We do what everybody else does, and best practices are best practices, so we do it in a very similar fashion to everybody else. How would you address those 2?
Well, the first one is obvious. You do have the time and you need to take the time, but hire someone who can help facilitate it. I mean, that's why we exist, right? Hire someone that knows and has a process. Like, we have a half-day session process that goes through this, and we just have a process. So hire someone that can facilitate that kind of strategic thinking. And if you can't spend a half a day on your business positioning, I think you've got your time schedule priorities upside down, right? On the second one about, are we really that different? No, you're not. And in the end of the day, all PI firms aren't really that different, but you've got to find a different way of saying you are different. And there's nuggets in there. I was recently talking to a firm, and they're in a very unique space in mental health. And the 2 founders actually founded the firm because they were clients. So they actually understand their clients. The fact that they came up and had their own personal challenges with that is really empowering, right? As opposed to lawyers who just chose that practice. So I've met a personal injury attorney who actually he got his CDL, his commercial driver's license. He went to the training where he actually drove the trucks. He spent, I don't know what it was, a week or 10 days. He went to the truck driving school. He learned how to drive an 18-wheeler. He got out on the road. So now when he talks to prospective clients about their truck accident, he can actually speak as to what a good commercial driver should have done and why the one that hit them was not properly trained or not properly managed by their company and why they're liable. So he could actually speak to that. So those little nuggets, you can find them and bring them out. So it's about finding a message. It's about finding a story. It's not that you have to be that different than every other lawyer, but find your unique reason. Find that unique colored jacket you wear.
Yeah, actually, the example that you just used is not a legal nugget. We had a client, no longer with us, but we had a wonderful client. All they did was truck accidents. Every single attorney at that firm, not going to name the name, but every single attorney at that firm had their CDL. Everyone had to have a CDL or they couldn't be an attorney at that law firm. They all knew what it takes to drive a semi-truck. They understood the mechanics, the dynamics, and everything that had to do with safety. They went on Capitol Hill quite a few times, helped rewrite certain laws that had to do with traffic, specifically driving trucks. And they were foremost experts. That was their brand statement. We're the experts to all things truck safety. And if you or your loved one happen to be blah, 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 and you're like, if you've been or your loved one has been in a truck accident, would you rather take that or over we're the biggest one in the country? Biggest, not the baddest. I want the best people who actually specialize in this.
Exactly. Find out, are you family? Are you geographically defined? Are you practice case focused? And don't be a generalist. I mean, in our business, my background, as I'm sure you know, is not in law, right? I mean, I was the CMO of Hilton. I was the CMO of Topgolf. Like, this had nothing to do with the law space. But you know what I learned there? I learned about how to fill bedrooms, right? How to get millions of people booking hotel rooms, how to get people to book the bays at Topgolf through digital marketing. So I learned digital marketing at a cutting edge level, at a very high level, that now I can use that experience and that knowledge to help law firms come into the 21st century. So find that relevant experience and bring it. And also, we market ourselves as Law Firm Fractional CMOs. We actually do this for a lot of different businesses, other professional services. We do it for CPG companies, but we market ourselves as specialists in law firms because that's the lion's share of what we do, right? And we've got the other piece, but it really resonates with the attorneys when you can tell them this is our focus. So if you can focus your messaging in your law firm, you'll find more consumers willing to understand than if you try to be all things to all people.
Let's talk about other things that resonate with law firm owners. Let's give a couple more examples of effective branding. If I understand correctly, you live in Southeast Florida, right?
That's right.
As do I. We're not going to name the firm. You may have seen their wrapped vehicles or not. It's a criminal defense law firm, and I'm intentionally changing their slogan a little bit, but hear how effective it is. Your future supported by our legal defense. Like, what do people worry about when they're faced with criminal charges? My future is on the line.
Right.
So their whole slogan is predicated on your future.
Right. And that's exactly right, because they've switched the messaging around, as I mentioned, towards what is very important to your prospective clients, not what is the greatest thing about you. If they were a PI attorney approach to that, they'd say, we're the best at litigating for you. We litigate, we're the best criminal defense attorneys in the state of Florida. We're the biggest criminal defense firm. That's all me, me, me. Instead, they say, it's your future. That's what we're helping you protect.
Quite interesting. Back in my larger corporate days, we also would do studies where we would interview clients of our clients and ask them just a couple of questions. Why did you choose our client over all other available options? Once you interview 2,000 people, 60% of them would usually give you a very similar answer. And that tells you what's different, unique, better about you than your competition. And then you would ask them, if you were talking to a friend and told them if they had a similar legal issue as you did, and you told them, go to this law firm, they would ask, like, why go there? What would you tell them? And in those two answers, and in the answers to these two questions, you would frequently hear a common theme, especially with those who have gone to other law firms prior to that, may have had an accident and have been to a car accident attorney before, and they would compare that client to them, and you would hear that. That's what's special about this firm.
Yeah, what you're talking about is market research, right? You go outside the law firm space, and there are companies that can't even, let people go to the bathroom without doing a focus group. So, and market research doesn't have to be expensive, right? You have the names, emails, phone numbers of past clients. So give them to your marketer and have them reach out. You can do a Survey Monkey for free to hundreds of people. But what you ask on that Survey Monkey is really important, right? And you need someone to architect the questions so that the data you get back is really useful, right? And that you get a completion rate and you get a diversity of clients. So it doesn't have to be expensive. I think people think that market research is and that's very expensive and is out of reach of a medium to small law firm. It's not at all. But be careful about going too small. Put 5 people in a room, do a focus group. I can find 5 people that are going to say Sasha Berson is the best podcaster in the world, and I'll find 5 people that say he's the worst, right? And so you've got to be careful how you do it, but it's very doable. You can do it very quick, and it can be free to very inexpensive.
Yeah, we would do it very inexpensively, but we didn't like SurveyMonkey, as we found that those responses, if they responded, were cold and canned and not expensive. Like we wouldn't hear the depth of the answer.
Right.
So instead of that, our clients would have to produce a list of 100 clients, introduce us to those clients by email, and then consistently about 20% of them would agree and actually attend a brief phone call where we would ask them a handful of questions and they would give us deep answers, or we would probe them to get deeper answers. And based on 2,000 responses, you would usually see that commonality, that 60 or plus % of people would say similar things about the client. They would say, I chose them because of this or because of that. And when I would be talking to a friend about them, I would tell them to go there and here's why.
And one of the other things you can do is, and we do this, is you can scrape your reviews. We have an AI tool. It'll read and scrape and organize the information of every single review. So if you have 1,100 reviews per location and you've got 3 locations, you've got 3,000 people who have said something about you. And you can scrape those reviews. Scraping mean gather all the text and data, right? And then it can organize. So let AI be your friend, and the data is there. But who can read 1,100 reviews? No one has the time. But you can use an AI tool to manage that, and you'll get a lot of the same nuggets.
I find that most reviews are not really in depth unless they're very negative. Negative reviews go in depth. They'll tell you exactly why they hate you. But positive reviews are usually, great guys, love the service, they took care of us. Do you find the same, or do you occasionally see actually in-depth positive reviews?
When was the last time you left an in-depth review of a restaurant you loved?
Never. Precisely never.
Yeah. I think human nature is to complain, right? So if you give someone an opportunity to complain, and we all know about the 1-star reviews from someone who didn't have a case. Next thing you know, you got a 1-star review. They're very disappointed. They thought they had a case. Reality was they never had a case. So now it's your fault because you didn't win them the case that they never really had. So yeah, I think we see a lot of the same thing. It's still a really good data point. We get a lot of nuggets out of those reviews. And it might be, again, if you're scraping 300, 500, 1,000, you're going to get some really good data out of there. Even if 92 of them say it's because you provided good service. Great. You served my meal on time and at the right temperature. It's kind of what you're paying for. So lawyers need to do more. But it's also why when you ask for reviews, you should request that people put in there, why did you choose us? And there are ways to prompt people to get more information in your reviews, which will actually help you with your Google rankings anyway.
100%. So let's sum up these points. Number 1, you have the time. Whether you believe it or not, you have the time to go through these exercises. You probably want someone with experience who will guide you through the exercise of coming up with differentiation points. The reason why you want differentiation points, or the answer to the question, why should I, your prospective client, choose you over all other available options in the marketplace? The reason why it's really helpful to have it, with the proper answer to that question, your cost per lead is going to be lower. Your case acquisition cost is going to be lower. You will either increase your profitability because those two key performance indicators actually become more profitable to you, or you will have more budget to allocate toward more client getting, which will in turn increase your revenues, which will in turn produce more profits. One way or another, it's a win. And as Stuart put it, it's a half-day long exercise. I bet if you were to look at it as, hey, over the next 2-3 years, we may actually add another $1 million or $2 million to the bottom line, it's worth your 4 hours of time.
Completely agree. Couldn't invest in your business, right?
Invest in
There's
your business.
different ways of investing in your business. Invest the time.
Absolutely. Next thing that I wanted to talk to you about, you mentioned that you've had a client for whom you've grown lead volume, qualified lead volume, not just any contact volume, but qualified lead volume from 30 qualified leads per month to 600 qualified leads per month. And you did it in such a record-breaking speed in just 9 months. What was the main practice area, and how did you do it in just 9 months?
The practice, it was a personal injury firm. And, I think transforming a marketing function is a relatively straightforward process, but it's something that we have developed an approach to that has continued to deliver client after client. The discipline is that transforming your marketing into a growth engine, that's what you just described as the result of having your marketing deliver as a growth engine, 20x the number of qualified leads, is building an engine that actually works. So if you think of your marketing as an engine, there's pistons in the engine, right? Think of a typical engine as a 4-6 cylinder engine. You've got 6 pistons pumping in there. You want all of them working hard. The question in the strategy is, what are those 6 pistons? And unfortunately, I think, that firm was a classic example of a firm that was relying on, only one of their 6 pistons was working. The others were antiquated. They were old. They were broadcast TV, too much billboard, overspending on PPC or LSAs. If that is the lion's share of your marketing mix today, you have a 20-year-old marketing model that is completely outdated. And the number of firms that I talk to on a daily basis, and I ask that question, how much you spend on TV, how much you spend on billboards, how much on PPC, and how much on LSAs, and oh, by the way, how much are you giving your SEO agency without any real sort of measurement? Those 5 things are the cornerstone of an old-fashioned marketing engine. So we break it down, and the process that's really important is you've got to analyze, audit, and assess everything you're doing. Where are your leads coming from today? What kind of leads you're getting? What value of cases? Where are your high value cases coming from? Where are your lower value cases from? Many firms have a hunch, but they haven't actually gone through the discipline of analyzing the data and attributing cases in great detail. So we spend close to 60 days at the beginning of every engagement going through a very deep audit and assessment. Why? Because it gives us the knowledge, it gives us the data to then build a new engine that is going to be powerful. We're now building a Corvette engine, and we're going to build it to be really powerful. And we move away from those core, that old model, and we have found some new things we have proven some new techniques. Content is king. And I think most law firms are completely underestimating the power of organic content. They're not using any really good digital retargeting, programmatic retargeting capabilities, particularly on television. That's a piston that we deploy that dramatically increases the number of leads. And then it's about fine-tuning some of the other things. There's still a role for PPC. There's a role for LSAs. There might be a role for billboards, but it's probably a lot less and a lot lower in the mix than it was originally. And when you start to redirect the dollars that were wasted on an old model, you can dramatically accelerate the number of leads. That's an example. It's an extreme example. It's, we consistently see, 20 to 30% month over month growth in signed cases when we get the engine right.
That's amazing. We also use the analogy of growth engine, and most people really understand that. The problem typically comes in the following format. Most reporting is focused on what happened. It doesn't tell you why it happened. And if it tells you why it happened, and usually law firm owners do not want to see this because this requires different level of business acumen. Like understanding what happened, I got this many qualified leads, it cost me this much money, it cost me this much money per qualified lead. Then why it happened, and then there is a lower level. So when you talk about 60-day analysis, why it happened this way. This is where most marketing teams will not even delve into this. This is too complicated for most marketing teams.
And I think one of the big mistakes, and it's the reason, we're being successful in the market, is that when you rely only on an agency to execute your marketing, it's like relying on a carpenter to design your house. Like you have a free piece of land and you're going to build a beautiful house and you've just hired a team of carpenters. You don't even know if you're going to have a stone house or a wooden house yet. You don't know if you're going to build a Tudor house or a Georgian house or a modern house or a glass house, right? So I like to use that building metaphor because hire an architect, hire a general contractor, and those people will know who the best plumbers, carpenters, electricians, masons, whatever you need. And those plumbers, electricians, and masons are the SEO agency, the web agency, the media campaign managers. All of those are necessary skills, but you need an architect to design the house and to oversee the entire construction and the implementation. And those are the only ones that can hold those people accountable. Yeah. And so when you ask a web agency how to grow your business, they're going to tell you need a new website. If you ask a TV media agency how to grow your law firm, they're going to tell you need to spend more on television and produce more TV commercials. It's their business. And when it comes back to those dashboards, we see this over and over. The dashboards of most agencies and of a lot of marketing teams are not aligned with business outcomes. They're aligned with the number of impressions, the number of clicks, click-through rates, right? They're not aligned to, there's only one business metric that matters in a personal injury law firm. Only one. It's signed cases per month. And that's what when we build a marketing engine, it is entirely focused on how many signed cases a month today and how many signed cases a month do you want to be in 6 months, 9 months, 18 months. What is A and what is B? And then you can build an engine to get there. You don't know if you're climbing up a hill or if you're just going up a gradual incline. So start with that business strategy, assess and audit everything you're doing, and then build the right engine that's going to deliver a marketing plan that will deliver on those business outcomes.
Stuart, I think you lead me to understand that you also work on the intake function, or is that something that...
We do.
You do? Okay, got it. Because otherwise you cannot be an architect of the number of cases signed.
Absolutely. No, it's a key piece of the assessment and audit that we do. Most, I've seen everything from lawyers who are routed calls to their cell phones, in the parking lot of a Morton Steakhouse on a Saturday night, to the offshore, non-English speaker who doesn't know anything about personal injury and isn't following the script and doesn't know what questions to ask and is just trying to take a note to get, to just get through the call. We've seen all of it, right? To unanswered calls, just ring, 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 ring. If you're going to generate leads, you've got to close the leads. And so, yes, we audit and assess what is the integration, what does the call routing look like, what's the software, what is the human capital resource that you're going to deploy, how are you qualifying those leads, what information are you gathering, do you have 24/7 availability, all these things. And we find tons of low-hanging fruit that produces new signed cases without even increasing the marketing, right? Just on the current leads that are coming in. I saw a great presentation from a very smart attorney the other day who talked about calling back, right? And they weren't calling people, dropped calls. They called back something. I want to say they called back, it was several thousand calls, 2,000 or 3,000, I think it was. And they signed 600 cases by just calling the number back. You have caller ID. So what's the system in place to track that, get that number, call back, and have a script that says, I'm so sorry I missed your call. We're here to help you. and how can I be of service? And,
Yeah. I think
so
as
yes,
marketers,
intake is a critical piece of the lead engine.
yeah, marketers going above and beyond the marketing part must absolutely impart it on their clients. And if you're a law firm, and I assume you're a law firm owner, listening or watching or reading this, marketing is a part of your growth engine. It's not the whole thing. If your intake is sputtering, if your intake is not very strong, no matter how effective marketing is, your case acquisition cost is going to be unnecessarily high, and you're going to sign way fewer cases than you would otherwise. And there's a little more that I want to add, and this is just a personal anecdote. Early this year, I decided to retain services of an estate planning lawyer. As a diligent consumer, I reached out to 5 law firms. One of the law firms suggested that I fill out the intake form right on their website. It was a very comprehensive form. Here are the results. One of the firms never got back to me. The law firm who had a very comprehensive intake form sent me an email saying, thanks for completing this. Would you please call us to set up an appointment? 2.5 months after I filled out the form. 3 had meetings with me. I was not very impressed by any of them. And after they spent an hour with me, each one of them, there was exactly 0 follow-up. 0. By the way, follow-up is such a big part of your intake system. Effective law firms, I've seen their systems. We have some clients who do that, not all. 40 touch points after the initial conversation. They will talk to you, whether you buy their services or not, whether you retain them or not, they will talk to you and make sure that they do their utmost best to squeeze the maximum ROI on that marketing investment of bringing prospective client through the door. And their case acquisition cost with those 39, 40 touch points is significantly lower than those who have 2 touch points because they sign so much more business. That same $10, $20, $30, $50,000 a month marketing budget spreads across way more cases if you have that many touch points than if you don't, because you just don't land that much business. So it's a huge key success factor, having the right intake place. And I am stunned that you have it as a law firm fractional CMO. It's not intuitive to think of a fractional CMO also taking care of what should be taken care of by fractional chief intake officer, but also most law firms don't have those titles.
All of our clients have different degrees of staff managing their intake. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, as I said, we measure ourselves against one KPI, signed cases per month. So unless we can understand where we're losing leads in the intake process, where there's some inefficiencies, where there's some opportunities to close more cases from the current leads, it's natural for us to be involved, right? And of course, we're not executing. We generally aren't executing, but we're helping manage through some of those processes with the intake people, because they tend to be very busy handling the intake. They're working in the business. They're not working on the business. And when we come in, we are more focused on working on the business than working in the business.
I'm putting myself once again into shoes of someone who's listening or watching this, and I'm thinking, this got to be really expensive. Yet you mentioned that the law firm that you helped grow from 30 qualified leads per month to 600 qualified leads per month, like 30 qualified leads per month indicates to me that this was not a large law firm. What's the investment? What's the average investment for a law firm? Or what's the size of a typical law firm that hires you?
Yeah, the size varies. We have a law firm that has 1 lawyer, and we have a client, I think our largest has 40. So it really runs the gamut. If you're spending money on marketing, you need a CMO. If you are wanting to grow and get out of the rut of doing the same thing, what's the definition of insanity, right? Keep doing the things you're doing and expecting a different result. So if you want a different result, you probably need someone to come in and build you a growth strategy. The average investment usually pays for itself it pays for itself right away in one of 2 ways. We find those incremental cases. That could be from closing some intake opportunities. That could be from fixing a few of the marketing functions right away that starts delivering a few more leads right away. The majority of our dramatic increase doesn't start until about the 4th month, right? So the average investment of a fractional CMO, $150,000 across the course of 9 months. Divide that by the number of cases you need, right? So our monthly fee equates to usually 1 to 2 cases incremental that they need to have a positive ROI per month. And we deliver that right away. So I tell people, I think we're actually inexpensive. Well, we're not a, $150,000 is a lot of cash. I get it. But if we can add $1 million of revenue to your firm, is that
It's
good
free.
investment?
It's free.
Can you get the level of talent that we can provide? People with 20 years experience, people with a diverse background across other professional services and other businesses. Can you hire somebody like that for $150,000? I run into marketing people inside firms all the time. I met one today. He told me he'd graduated from college last year. Great. How much experience does he have? How many times has he been around the block? Right? He can probably execute a few things pretty well, but he doesn't have the expertise or the experience to be a strategist or a CMO. So I hope he's not listening, but
It's the truth.
But it's the truth. So, I have the old adage, pay peanuts, you get monkeys, right? So invest in your people, pay your people well, you pay your lawyers well, right? Lawyers take a pretty healthy cut of settlements for their services. Why? Because they delivered value and they delivered the settlement, right? So you should think about your marketing the same way. Now, it needs to have checks and balances. Ours does. We have a 30-day out on our contracts, every single one of them. We don't add value, fire us. I welcome it, right? Let us go if it's not working for you. Hope you give us a chance to fix it if we're doing something wrong. But sometimes there are other factors involved. Never had it happen. I think it's a great value. And this is the only one, maybe the only great thing to come out of the pandemic is the surge in fractional executiveship, right? I got into this because I got laid off during the pandemic. I needed to work, right? I wanted to work and no one was hiring. So I started consulting. I started working fractionally with different things. I ended up joining a large fractional CMO company. And eventually 3 of us broke off and founded this business. And so the pandemic brought us Zoom. The pandemic brought us remote work, very acceptable. Almost all of our work is remote, except that we don't insist. We strongly recommend that our CMOs come on site once a month and spend some time in the firm, meeting people, presenting key findings, getting consensus on key decisions. And that happens once a month. So we do travel to our clients, but we don't have to be there every day. And that's part of why we're actually pretty inexpensive, because you don't have to buy all of our time. You don't have to employ us with a 2-year contract plus bonus. That would cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars to hire a CMO. And I mean a CMO, not just a marketer, right? So I think $150,000 investment for a firm that's spending $500,000, million in or more in marketing is a small. And the other way we find our value, we find it in savings. I tell most of my prospective clients, expect that we will find somewhere between 30 and 40% wasted spend. And we're going to pull that back and we're going to have a couple of options. We can pull back the spending, redeploy it, redirect it to channels we know that are working better once we do the audit. And sometimes we do both of that. We pull back early and then we start, once we have the new plan in place, the new engine built, then we can start investing. And so we're saving people money.
Yeah. On the point of cutting back waste, if you're watching this and you know that every month your marketing team delivers reports and it shows you things like impressions and traffic and other leading indicators, but not what you really want to see, or if you don't think the data is accurate, every month your marketing team should be reporting number of qualified leads that are verified. You should be able to spot check them, randomly pull out 10, 12 leads and see that they're actually marketing qualified leads, a reasonable person from within your geographical market reaching out to your firm because they need help with XYZ that you actually can help them with. And they should be telling you how much each one of those qualified leads cost you per channel, just to see how effective the marketing is across channels. Because if you see a blended number, Something may be working well and other things could be waste. For example, your SEO and or GEO can be working incredibly well, while your PPC, for every client that you sign up, you may be actually losing money. We've seen that. We've taken over accounts from other agencies where they're like, well, we were getting this many cases. I'm like, from where? And they're like, from everywhere. Well, once you decipher it and look at it, this channel, the ROI is 800%. This channel, the ROI is 200%. Your profit margin is 50%. So by the time you deliver the service, there is no ROI. You're just wasting money on it. So that's a great thing. You got to have that. I think a logical point for us to wrap up. I'm curious, if your engagement is 9 months, you're the architect, you designed the system, who is the mechanic or who is the overseer that you hand this off to after the 9-month period is over?
Yeah, it's a great question. It usually happens in one of two ways. Sometimes the firm, once is intended, always has been from day one, to have a full-time person, maybe a marketing director, somebody a little more junior, who is more the, like you say, the driver. Like, we've now built the F1 car. It's finally tuned, it's owned and operating, but you need a driver, right? And so you need someone to steer it and keep it going. Sometimes they hire that, and we help them scope that job, help them hire, even interview for it. And we train that person and transition it over. That's about 30% of our clients do that. The other 70 like to keep us on. Now, sometimes it's at a different rate. Sometimes it's at a lower rate because now it's maintenance, right? We've grown, we've plateaued, and they're happy with that. And sometimes they want to keep the person around who built the engine, and they see it as a cost that is, well, very acceptable within the range of now their doubled, tripled size business. And they know that this person is going to be responsive. So our average engagement, even though we scope out 9 months, is closer to 18 months.
That's phenomenal. Stuart, what's the best way to...
But it's an option for the firm, right? They can choose. There's a lot of options they can choose. And they don't have to decide on day one. That's the beauty of it. They can decide at month 6. They can decide at month 9. And then we have firms, we're just going month to month. And we're comfortable with that. Some of them have said, you're never leaving. You're Jody, you're our CMO and you're not going anywhere, right? Some say that. That's great. And our CMOs are happy to stay on. They feel like part of the family, and they feel a pride in the ownership of the engine they've built.
Yeah. I love hiring consultants. I've hired numerous consultants over the years. Many of them have been absolutely free. So they're free, those that you break even on. You didn't spend anything. You got your money's worth. And those that are free deliver a substantial return on investment. Yeah. And the way I view it, every consultant who I hire, every professional who I hire, they gotta be free. So if the results are there and they substantially overshadow whatever that I put into the investment, or whatever I invested into them, it's a great day for me. It's a great day for my company. It's a great day for my employees. It's a great day for our clients. It's a win for everyone around. And that person, whoever we hire, it's amazing. Stuart, how do people connect with you?
Very easily. We have a website. It's lawfirm-cmo.com. So lawfirm-cmo.com. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can email me. It's sfoster@lawfirm-cmo.com, or find me on LinkedIn and connect with me.
And the very last question. What are the best 3 questions that people should start the conversation with?
To us.
To you, yeah.
Like, question to us.
Yeah.
The first question is who's going to be our CMO and why that CMO, right? We have a bench of CMOs, and we have a particular process about who we put on whose business. And you should understand that thinking versus just getting somebody. I think, how are you going to assess and audit our business, and what do you need access to is a really good question. And probably, where do you think the biggest short-term opportunity is based on, the little information we've given you? It's probably a good question.
Amazing. Stuart, thank you so much for sharing all the insight. Thank you for being part of this podcast.
Yeah, this was fun. Thanks, Sasha. Appreciate your time.